All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video after the draft, getting ready for training camp. And of course, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, our good friend Matt Barrows of The Athletic did a nice little sit down with Adam Peters, one of the 49ers personnel executives. And the topic was this year's draft class. And there were a number of really interesting things that came out of the discussion. Just to get into a few of them before we get into the real topic, which is the gold helmet designations. Let's talk about some of the things that came out in this article. I think were really interesting. One about D. Winters, the linebacker the 49ers drafted out of TCU. They felt like D. Winters, was incredibly fast. That Johnny Holland saw a little bit of Dre Greenlaw in D. Winters. Winters has great production at TCU, 7.5 sacks, really fast playmaker, guy who ran 4.49 in the 40. But I thought that was interesting. That caught my eye that Johnny Holland compared him to Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is one of the best linebackers in football. And they felt like Winters played incredibly fast. He's not quite the same size as Dre Greenlaw, but just the fact that Johnny, who's played linebacker going back to the 80s at Texas A&M, he knows the position really well, and he knows these players really well, and he compared Winters to Greenlaw, and that's good enough for me. I thought that was really, really interesting. The other one I thought was really interesting, Peters talked about how Cameron Latou, the Alabama tight end, that they view him as potentially an advanced blocker, maybe not right away, but eventually, that he's incredibly physical and competitive. He's a converted linebacker, and they see a lot of that defensive mentality in his blocking and felt like, he's an advanced blocker. Peters was at the Alabama-Tennessee game, which by most accounts was Latou's best game, but he felt like he put some guys on their butt in that game and that he's got potential to be an advanced blocker. About Darrell Luter, the cornerback from South Alabama, they talked about how they love his 33-inch arms and his maturity, that Steve Wilkes loved Luter, and he was kind of Wilkes' handpicked guy, that Luter has incredible man-to-man coverage ability, and that he ran 4.46, but that they felt like his film showed that he played quite a bit faster. There's a lot of people that really think that Darrell Luter Jr. is going to step in and play really well on the corner for the 49ers. So I think that was an interesting pick. It was interesting listening to them talk about Robert Beal, the Georgia defensive end, and his burst, and how they see a lot of the same impact that Jordan Willis made on special teams. They feel like Beal could make that same impact right away on special teams because of his burst and his speed. I thought that was really interesting. It really stood out to me. And then a couple comments on Ronnie Bell. They felt like Ronnie Bell showed incredible savvy as a player. That they love the fact that he was a 2-time team captain. That he's a smart, versatile playmaker. That he came back from ACL surgery in 2021 to have a huge 2022. Those were some of the things they loved about him. And then when they came time to talk about Jalen Graham, Adam Peters talked about how, they really feel that Graham is a really underrated player, and that, that he had 15 pass breakups, 3 interceptions over the last 2 years. That, he ran 4.64, but that he showed that he's a lot faster when you watch the film. They felt like, he's a guy that plays hard and can cover in man-to-man. And a lot of those same sentiments were echoed by Scott McLuhan in a previous piece put out by Matt Barrows. So those were kind of the subplots to the overall theme of this article, which is who are the gold helmet designated players that the Niners had in this draft. And let's talk about that for a second. The 49ers, every draft, will make 15 to 20 gold helmet designations. players that they mark down on a special level. This is the highest mark that they give to a prospect. And it's generally because they love the player and the person. It's not just about the player. It's about wedding the two, having guys that you really, really like because of their traits as people, and football players that you really like because of their traits as players. So the Niners give out, as the article states here, 15 to 20 gold helmet designations per draft class. And if they can wind up with one or two, they you know that's usually the way it shakes out. Now, who are guys in the past who have gotten this gold helmet designation? Well, a few years ago, it was Colton McKivitz coming out of West Virginia. They really loved Colton, and several of the attributes that he had. In the last couple drafts, Trey Lance and Talanoa Hufanga both got gold helmet designations by the 49ers. And this year, the 49ers had two different guys that they drafted who were achieved that gold helmet designations. And it is interesting too. The 49ers, do they meet with all the players they draft? They drafted 9 guys this year. They met with 5 of those guys prior to the draft. So some they do, some they don't. But the guys they had gold helmet designations on in this draft were Ji'Ayir Brown, the safety out of Penn State, who they took in the 3rd round. And, they talked about how, man, he's a hard hitter, and the guy produces turnovers, 6 of them last year. And they actually kind of liked it when he ran the slowish 40 time, because he ran 4.65, which is kind of a slowish 40 time. But they liked it because they knew that would create value in the draft, that he would probably be looked over because of that 40 time. And sure enough, they were right. They got a player that they had a 2nd round grade on, and they got him in the 3rd round, almost at the end of the 3rd round. So what they love about Brown, and one of the reasons that he was given the gold helmet designation, is they love him as a leader. They love his intelligence. The article talks about how Eric Thatcher is the Niners Northeast area scout. And he himself was the guy who actually recruited Ji'Ayir Brown to Penn State. So Thatcher had this incredible knowledge of Brown as a person and what he was all about. And they love Brown. They feel like he plays more like a 4-4 guy, that he's an incredibly smart player, and that intelligence on the field and that play recognition and everything that goes into being a smart football player essentially makes him more like a 4-4 guy instead of a 4-6 guy. The Niners and their research and development people had Brown in the 92nd percentile as far as how they evaluate speed and acceleration. And Adam Peters didn't want to go into the details of how they arrive at that number, and I wouldn't either. That's kind of like the secret sauce. But just the fact that he ran 4.65, and that the Niner people had Brown in the 92nd percentile as far as his overall field speed and field acceleration, really speaks to the fact that there's a lot that goes into these evaluations. They feel like he's a similar player in a lot of respects to Talanoa Hufanga. One of the things that I think came out about Ji'Ayir Brown that they really liked is that he consistently plays with extreme urgency. And you've heard this throughout the draft process. A lot of people felt like this guy was a difference-making player because he's a culture player. He plays hard. He sets the tone. And his nickname was, they called him Tig as a little kid growing up because he used to bounce around like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, which is hilarious. But then also, I guess, at Penn State, his nickname was The Voice because he was the true leader of that Penn State defense. So as far as I'm concerned, I love the pick from the outset. Why? Personally, just because, I have my own process of how I look at guys. And one of the things I always look for is who are the freaky athletes? Because that's what the NFL is. The NFL is made up of guys who are freak athletes. And so I always peruse the Bruce Feldman freaks list because Bruce does an incredible job at outlining the top 100 freaky athletes in college football. And he had Ji'Ayir Brown on his list. And if you looked at some of the totals that he had as far as his bench and his lifting and his deadlifts and his power cleans, Ji'Ayir Brown's a really strong football player as far as the weight room's concerned. But that, to me, is always secondary because there's a lot of workout wonders. But then that tells me he's a great athlete. And then I watched him, and he stood out to me all year. And then I watched him at the end of the year against Utah in that bowl game, and he was the best player on the field in the Rose Bowl. Sacked the quarterback a couple times, had a pick, had eight or nine tackles against the run, physical against the run, instinctive against the pass. And to me, that's it. That's a wrap. You get a big-time athlete who stands out in a bowl game as the best player on the field, and match that production throughout the regular season, and that's the guy that I want. And sure enough, Ji'Ayir Brown fit that description. So to me, I love the Ji'Ayir Brown pick, and just hearing that the Niners had a gold helmet designation on him makes me like him that much more. All right, but there was one other guy that was given a gold helmet designation as well, and it's Braden Willis, the Oklahoma tight end. And this guy is a great story as well. This guy was the team captain. The 49ers felt like he was an elite competitor. And you see that. I mean, you absolutely see that on film. This guy's fighting for extra yards, second effort, third effort, fourth effort, twisting, turning, trying to pull away. You see bigger tight ends. You see faster tight ends. You see more athletic tight ends. But as far as toughness, courageousness to make catches over the middle of the field without worrying about the defender lighting them up. And when you're looking for competitor, there are little things that you can see on film that will tell you if the guy's a competitor, if he's tough. And those things came screaming off the film when I watched Braden Willis. So team captain, Niners feel he's an elite competitor. They love his run after the catch ability. He had the highest broken tackle percentage of any tight end in the draft. How about that for a second? That's what the job is. Breaking tackles at tight end is like a major job requirement. That's what you do. That's what the great ones do in the NFL. They don't just run in the clear. They catch it in space, but then the space is closed down by an athletic elite defender. And then can you break that tackle and keep rolling? And Braden Willis does. The other thing the Niners liked about Braden Willis is that when Lincoln Riley bolted, when he bailed out of OU for SC, Willis didn't join him. He could have jumped like so many of the players did, but he stayed at OU, and that told the Niners, good things about Braden Willis, the person. They discussed how he's got H-back potential and fullback potential, and there's a lot of versatility here. His wingspan, he's elite. He's got really long arms. He's 245 pounds. But it was the physical mentality of Willis that gave him that gold star designation from the 49ers. So once again, credit Matt Barrows and the people at The Athletic for chasing down Adam Peters and writing this piece on the gold helmet designations. And for you 49er fans, just remember when you're watching this team in camp, Ji'Ayir Brown and Braden Willis got the gold helmet designation honor from the 49ers, and it means a lot to them. And I think you're going to see why those players got those designations when you check them out, whether you're at camp this summer or you're just checking it out on the tube in the preseason. Look for Ji'Ayir Brown on defense and Braden Willis on offense. All right, hope you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show. And check out Pig and a Pickle. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.